Chapter 563. Shin Miao followed his line of sight and discovered that when she was struggling with Xie Changqiao, her clothes were torn by Xie Changqiao. Now she was exposed and even the doo-doo could be seen. She was surprised for a moment and scolded Xie Changqiao in her heart before covering herself with Xie Jingxing's cloak. Xie Jingxing's cloak was too big for her and the front buttons could not be buttoned up, thus Shin Miao could not do it for a long time. Xie Jingxing saw that she did not react for a long time and turned his head, just in time to see that Shin Miao was still doing the buttons of the cloak. So he walked over and squatted down in front of Shin Miao. He took out the belt from the collar of the cloak and tied it properly for Shin Miao. His hands were very good-looking. The joints were clear and slender, and the action of tying the belt was dexterous and gentle, if one ignored his cold face. Shin Miao looked up at him. Xie Jingxing's eyelashes were extremely long, and when they drooped down, his sharp eyes became soft, showing a rare gentleness. He was concentrating on tying the knot, but from the beginning to the end, he had a cold face, as if he was in a bad mood, but one did not know who had provoked him. After tying a strong bow knot, Xie Jingxing had yet to stand up when Shin Miao said, "Actually, you do not need to kill him." She was talking about Xie Changqiao. Xie Jingxing actually did not need to kill Xie Changqiao, as what Xie Changqiao said was right. Even though he was a Shu son, he was after all Xie Ding's son. Even though one did not know why Xie Jingxing stayed in Mingqi, but this would definitely bring him some unnecessary trouble. He saw my face, thus one cannot leave him alive, Xie Jingxing said. Shin Miao rolled her eyes in her heart. No one wanted to see Xie Jingxing's face, and from the beginning till now, it was Xie Jingxing who took the initiative to take off his mask. Xie Jingxing basically had the intention to kill Xie Changqiao, so there was no need to find such a far-fetched reason. Go out less in the future, Xie Jingxing said. If I came any later, something would have happened to you today. When he said those words, he slightly frowned and had a cold face, with some appearance of inculcating. Shin Miao was speechless for a moment and thought for a moment before saying, "How are my father, mother, and eldest brother now?" The entire Shin family's army was dispatched and searched from house to house in the Ding capital, but returned without any success. Xie Jingxing said, "No one guessed that you were hiding in the residence of the Marquis of Lineage." Pausing, he then said, "Luo Tan's injuries are very serious and she has been unconscious." Gao Yang had already gone to the Shin mansion to save her, and one heard that the situation is not bad. Luo Tan is injured? Shin Miao was surprised for a moment. Why is the injury so serious? A knife wound. Xie Jingxing turned his head and looked at Shin Miao. You do not know? Shin Miao shook her head. At that time I was knocked unconscious and brought onto the horse. I don't know what happened after that. After a moment of silence, Shin Miao suddenly thought of something and looked at Xie Jingxing. Luo Tan was injured and did not wake up, so how did you find this place? Xie Jingxing was somewhat puzzled. What do you mean? Shin Miao's heart moved. Luo Tan was seriously injured and unconscious, so naturally it was impossible for her to see Xie Jingxing, and it was also impossible for her to tell Xie Jingxing about what she entrusted to him. Then Xie Jingxing coming to save them was his own idea? Shin Miao's mood was somewhat complicated in a moment. It was Xie Jingxing's eyes that slightly flashed, and he suddenly got close to Shin Miao. His hands were by Shin Miao's side, as if he was holding her in his embrace. He said with his lips raised, "From your meaning, you let Luo Tan look for me? Ask me for help?" Shin Miao pushed him away. She knew that Xie Jingxing was smart and could not hide it from him. She said, "Just felt that you have this ability and moreover your identity is much more convenient." She emphasized, "I let Luo Tan look for you and it was a deal. When you rescue me, I will naturally pay the corresponding reward." Chapter 564. Payment. Xie Jingxing said in an unconcerned manner, "The Shin family will offer 10,000 of gold, but I do not care as the Great Liang treasury has a lot of it. What can you pay?" Shin Miao gritted her teeth. As long as one does not devote one's body, naturally everything is possible. Xie Jingxing raised his brows as he looked at her and sighed. "So you were thinking like this. Could it be that you were reminding me of the fact that you want to marry me? Women should be graceful and reserved. It's not good for you to be like this." Shin Miao could only respond with a sneer. "Never mind," Xie Jingxing said. "Saving someone is a small matter to me, and I will not make things difficult for you. The remuneration is simple." He stared at Shen Miao and said with a smile that was not a smile, "Write poems, play the qin, make pastries, and do needlework. For the time being, just these few." "Shen Miao," she said, "another one? This prince wants this." Xie Jingxing refused Shen Miao's words. He seemed to feel that the ground was a little cold and pulled Shen Miao up. "Currently, one cannot send you back to the Shen mansion. You have been missing for a total of 3 days and rumors are everywhere. If one were to return now, it would be hard to avoid suspicion." Xie Jingxing said, "I will arrange for someone to send you to the princess residence. Rongyi will help you." Shen Miao was startled and looked at Xie Jingxing before asking, "Princess Rong Xian also know of your identity?" Xie Jingxing shook his head. "Among the people of Mingqi, you are the only one." Shen Miao was silent. Xie Jingxing looked at Xie Changchao's corpse on the ground, and a trace of disgust flashed in his eyes before he suddenly said, "But today, in order to save you, I made a move to kill and inevitably cause trouble. This happened because of you. From now on, we're in the same boat. You're my ally. Do you understand?" I did not seem to agree. Shen Miao was flustered. "It's enough that I agree," Xie Jingxing said cheerfully. He snapped his fingers and 2 men dressed in black walked in. "Move it back." Xie Jingxing used his feet to touch Xie Changchao's body. Shen Miao was surprised. "What do you want his corpse for?" Xie Jingxing raised his eyebrows. "There is a great use." Tai Yi and Nanqi carried Xie Changchao's corpse out. It was also fortunate that Xie Changwu and his brother had built such a secret chamber that even the servants in the residence of the Marquis of Lin and did not know that there was a tunnel dug in the secret chamber and one could directly go outside. It was much easier to walk. It had been a long time since a guest came to the princess mansion. Ever since the news of Xie Jingxing's death on the battlefield spread, Princess Rong Xian fell seriously ill, and after recovering, it seemed that the illness had taken root and she rarely attended imperial family events. He left the princess mansion less and less often, and even when people came to visit, he refused to see them. Everyone knew that this was because Xie Jingxing was dead. Princess Rong Xian did not have any sons in her entire life and only treated this nephew as her own son. Originally, when Xie Jingxing was alive, he would visit the princess residence every few days. But after Xie Jingxing died in battle and Princess Rong Xian had such a strange temper, it was almost deserted. But today, there was a guest in the princess's mansion. The maid that was sweeping outside was an old servant in the princess residence, and with one look she could tell that the young lady sitting in the carriage had come to the princess residence 2 years ago. At that time, Princess Rong Xian had warmly received her and was called Shen something. That maid could not remember clearly. But the person who reported did not have to wait for long before he saw Princess Rong Xian's personal female official rushing out and welcoming the female guest and the guards by her side. When the remaining few maids who were sweeping saw this, they gathered together and whispered, "Which family's young lady is that?" The princess had not seen any guests in these 2 years and actually saw one today. Looking at that appearance, it seemed that she could not wait. Most likely she had some friendship with the princess in the past. It is rare to see such a person. Chapter 565. 2 years ago she also came over. At that time Shigugu, who was by the princess's side, also sent her back to the residence. She is surnamed Shen. The maid at the outermost, who was trying to recall, suddenly had a flash of inspiration and slapped her head. "I remember that young lady's name. That young lady is not the daughter of the formidable great general, Shen Miao." Everyone was first enlightened before their eyes became very interesting. They naturally recognized Shen Miao. Recently there was an uproar in the Ding capital. She had disappeared for 3 days, and Shen Xian was even willing to offer 10,000 taels of gold to save her. Everyone guessed that Shen Miao had met with an accident and did not think that the main topic of discussion would actually appear in the princess residence. What was Shen Miao doing in the princess residence? Shen Miao sat in the main hall, and the maids came over to serve her tea and snacks, but at the end she could feel some eyes that were quietly sizing her up. Shen Miao calmly accepted it. If someone recognized her, they would naturally find it strange that she would appear in the princess residence. But there was no choice. Just like what Xie Jingxing said, She had returned to the residence alone and could not stop the rumors from happening. One had to find a person of high status and power to prove it for her. The last Lantern Festival, Princess Rong Xian had proven it for her, and this time she still needed Princess Rong Xian's help. There was no choice. Princess Rong Xian was an upright person, and everyone knew that she was fair to the point of being unreasonable. If it was said from Princess Rong Xian's mouth, no one would doubt it. After a moment, footsteps were heard from behind. Shin Miao turned around and saw Princess Rong Xian, who was being supported by a female official walking over slowly. Shin Miao could not help but be surprised. The person who came was wearing an autumn-colored robe with a cloak on the outside. Most likely there was some powder on her face, but it could not hide her old age and haggard look. The last time Shen Miao saw Princess Rong Xian 2 years ago, she was still an energetic woman, but now it was as if her soul was taken away in one night, making one's heart feel a little sad when looking at her. Even in the previous lifetime when Shen Miao reached the end, when Princess Rong Xian had really aged, she did not have such a haggard look, and Shen Miao was well aware of the reason for all of this. It seemed that the news of Xie Jingxing's death was a huge blow to Princess Rong Xian that she had become this haggard in 2 years. She got up and greeted Princess Rong Xian. When Princess Rong Xian saw her, she revealed a nostalgic expression and there was a smile on her lips. Not seeing you for 2 years. At that time, General Shen left in a hurry and Bin Gong did not have the time to let people send you some farewell gifts. When you returned to the capital, Bin Gong caught a cold and did not attend the tribute banquet, thus there was no chance to see you. She sat down in front of the table and indicated for Shen Miao to sit down. Shen Miao nodded her head slightly. It should be this official's daughter who came to visit. Previously I knew that you were good-looking. Princess Rong Xian smiled as she looked at her. Seeing you now, it is what Bin Gong's heart thought. Since young you are a beauty, and now you are more outstanding. If this consort's nephew was still alive. Her voice slowly trailed off and a trace of pain flashed through her eyes, but she couldn't continue. Shin Miao also did not know what to say. It was Princess Rong Xian who started laughing again. Bin Gong always say such unhappy words. Every time, he would tell himself not to think about it. But in the end, he would always think about it. Who told you to be unhappy with this consort? You are also sad. Bin Gong only cared about my own sadness and did not think about how you would feel after hearing it. It is really Bin Gong's fault. Princess Rong Xian was such a tough person in her bones, but she actually apologized to others. Shin Miao's heart was somewhat surprised, but there was even more sympathy. Xie Jingxing's identity could not be explained to Princess Rong Xian, but from Princess Rong Xian's point of view, the nephew that accompanied her for so many years died so miserably on the battlefield. One could imagine the pain in her heart. Princess Rong Xian smiled. Bin Gong have heard of your matters. Do not worry, 2 years ago Bin Gong helped you. This time Bin Gong will naturally help you. Shin Miao only said that she was kidnapped by criminals, but because of the conflict with the residents of the Marquis of Lineage, she was saved by Xie Jingxing's original secret guard. Because Xie Jingxing's secret guard had seen Shan Miao before, he extended a helping hand. But if one were to return to the Shin family rashly, it would cause rumors. Thus one had to ask Princess Rong Xian to come forward. As long as Xie Jingxing was mentioned, Princess Rong Xian would be exceptionally tolerant. In addition, that so-called secret guard of Xie Jingxing really had the token that Xie Jingxing gave him. So after Princess Rong Xian personally saw it, she no longer had any doubts. In addition, she had a good impression of Shen Miao, so naturally she readily agreed to help. This official's daughter, thanks your Princess Highness. Shin Miao said, this official's daughter is really ashamed to trouble your Princess Highness every time. What kind of trouble is this? Princess Rong Xian smiled bitterly. Originally, when Jingxing was around, whenever one made a mistake, one would like to go to the princess residence, which time the trouble was not bigger than the heavens. But one did not see him feel a trace of guilt. Originally, one thought that Bin Gong would treat it as doing a good deed, and when Bin Gong is old, it would be Bin Gong's turn to find trouble for him. Who knew? Princess Rong Xian's smile was somewhat ugly. Now I would like him to find trouble for Bin Gong, but one cannot wait any longer. Chapter 566. Luotan woke up once in the night. Coincidentally, Xian and entourage were searching for Shen Miao's whereabouts in the Ding capital, and Luo Ling was in the residence looking after Luo Tan and Gao Yang when he suddenly received a report from his subordinates that there seemed to be suspicious people moving around in the western part of the city. Luo Ling thought of Shen Miao and entrusted Luo Tan to Gao Yang as he brought his subordinates to the western part of the city. Only Luo Tan and Gao Yang were left in the room. When Luo Tan woke up, there were only 2 maids in the room taking care of her, and it was Shen Miao's Bai Lu and Shuangjiang. Seeing that she was awake, they were pleasantly surprised and said, "Biao young lady is finally awake." Luo Tan felt that her body was a little heavy. Lifting the quilt, she saw that there was actually a white cloth wrapped around the lower part of her clothes. When Bai Lu saw this, she thought that Luo Tan was worried that she would have a scar in the future and comforted, "Biao young lady is bound to have good fortune after surviving a great disaster." That day the wound was very serious and it scared Master and Foreign badly. They had invited several doctors, but none of them were able to do anything. It was still that imperial physician Gao in the palace who had superior medical skills. Not only that, imperial physician Gao also left a prescription. As long as Biao young lady applies the medicine according to the prescription, the scar will be very light in the future and it will be almost invisible. Luo Tan rubbed her forehead and seemed to remember something. She asked, "How many days have I been unconscious?" Replying to young lady, "You have been unconscious for almost 3 days." Shuangjiang said, "3 days?" Luo Tan jumped in shock and suddenly thought of something. She asked anxiously, "What about youngest Biao's sister? Have you found Biaomei?" Bai Lu and Shuangjiang's expression dimmed as they shook their heads. Luo Tan's heart gradually sank. She said, "How are aunt and uncle now?" The city is now sealed and Master and Foreign have been running around all day, searching for young lady's whereabouts, but there is no news. Shuangjiang said, "One do not know how is young lady now. It's already been 3 days. How come there's still no news after 3 days? It's not like those people know any demonic techniques. How can they make people disappear?" Luo Tan said excitedly. Bai Lu and Shuangjiang looked at each other in dismay, but could only lower their heads and not speak. Luo Tan clenched her fists tightly and was extremely anxious in her heart. At that time, she remembered seeing with her own eyes that the 2 villains knocked Shen Miao unconscious and brought her into the carriage. Then, Luo Tan's heart moved and suddenly remembered the words that Shen Miao said to her in the carriage. "Remember, if you successfully escape, think of a way to send a letter to Prince Rui's residence. Just say that there's something to trade and the price will be discussed later. Remember, after you successfully escape, find a way to send a letter to the residence." Even though Luo Tan also did not understand how Shen Miao and Prince Rui of the Great Liang would have a friendship in private, but in the 2 years in the Shaochun city, Luo Tan was clear of Shen Miao's temperament and would not do unnecessary things. She stood up and wanted to walk out when Bai Lu and Shuangjiang jumped in shock and quickly came over to support her. "What is Biao young lady trying to do? We servants will do it. Young lady Biao's body has not recovered yet. Don't let the wound open again." When Luo Tan stood up, she felt a burst of weakness in her body. It was probably because she had been lying on the bed for too long that her legs and feet were soft. This made her, who had always felt that she was strong, a little angry. "However," she said, "I have some things to do. Don't worry about me." Before he finished speaking, he heard an unfamiliar male voice from outside. "Where are you going?" Luo Tan raised her head and saw a young man walking in from outside the house. This man was dressed in white and had the appearance of an elegant young master. He was also quite good-looking. He bent down and casually placed it on a small table. He took out a fan from his waist and waved it gently. He asked again, "Where are you going?" Luo Tan frowned. "Who is he?" Chapter 567. Shuangjiang quickly said, "This is Imperial Physician Gao from the palace, and it was he who treated Biao young lady. Now he is staying in our Shin mansion, and it is convenient to change Biao young lady's medicine." Luo Tan frowned. Even though Luo Tan was somewhat masculine and lacked the delicateness of a female, she was the same as thousands of females and loved good-looking things. Previously in the Shaochun city, there would occasionally be a handsome young man on the stage and Luo Tan would pull Shen Miao to reward that young man. which showed that Luo Tan attached great importance to a male's appearance. If it was on normal days, Luo Tan would most likely speak nicely to such a handsome white-clad gentleman, but now her heart was filled with Shun Miao, and even if she met a celestial being, she would not have the mood to appreciate it. She said, "Physician Gao, I have an important matter to attend to." Gao Yang couldn't help choking for a bit. He had heard people call him Darren Gao or Imperial Dr. Gao, but he had never heard anyone call him Dr. Gao. This made him feel like he was a doctor in the marketplace, the kind of barefoot doctor that would rush out with a medical box when someone came to ask for it. This was something that Gao Yang, who had always been picky and self-respecting, could not tolerate. He glanced at Luo Tan again. The young girl's skin was not as fair and delicate as the women in the capital. It was a healthy wheat color. Even though she was weak, standing there, she was like a plant full of vitality, giving off a refreshing feeling. She frowned as she stared at Gao Yang, and her pretty facial features became even more three-dimensional. It was Gao Yang's first time seeing a person who was stabbed 3 days ago and could still be so lively after 3 days. Thinking of the first time he saw Luo Tan's frightening injury, Gao Yang could not help but exclaim in surprise. It was difficult for a normal male to persevere with that kind of injury, but Luo Tan, a young female, was able to persevere till she was discovered. Thus her desire to live was very strong. Gao Yang considered himself to be a person who had tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex, but he did not like Shan Miao, that kind of scheming tigress, nor did he like Luo Tan, who was so strong and did not have the slightest tenderness of a female. He immediately said, "General Shen and Shen Foreign invited me to treat young lady, and after this one treated young lady. Young lady ran around causing the old illness to relapse. This one cannot take the hat of not being able to cure, so one requests young lady not to casually walk around." Luo Tan was anxious, but she could only patiently explain to him, "I have something important to do outside. I will personally tell little aunt and uncle that this matter has nothing to do with you. Is that okay?" "No," Gao Yang said, "as an imperial physician, I have to be responsible for my patients." He emphasized the word imperial physician, hoping that Luo Tan could understand that he was different from those doctors in the marketplace. Luo Tan didn't notice his emphasis, so she said angrily, "You are a doctor. What right do you have to control me? Firstly, I am an imperial physician. Secondly, before brother Luo Ling left, he entrusted young lady to this one. If young lady really have something important on hand, this one can make a trip for young lady. There is no harm in young lady saying it." Luo Tan bit her lips. At that time, Shin Miao told her that the matter of Prince Rui must not be told to others, and it was because Shin Miao trusted Luo Tan that she told Luo Tan about it. Luo Tan had always been stubborn, and in addition to Prince Rui's sensitive identity, she knew that no matter what outsiders must not know, even Shan Miao's maids would not know. She glared at Gao Yang. "If young lady changes your mind, then it is better to drink the medicine first. After drinking the medicine, young lady's body will be better and naturally be able to handle the important matters," Gao Yang said with a smile. Luo Tan asked Bai Lu to bring a bowl of medicine and drank it all in one breath with a gudong-gudong sound. She had a heroic appearance, and when she finished drinking, she placed the bowl of medicine down with a pong sound and said to Gao Yang, "Is this enough?" Chapter 568. This one admires. Gao Yang cupped his hands towards Luo Tan. Good medicine was bitter, and since it was brewed for Luo Tan, with Luo Tan's serious injuries, that medicinal concoction was unspeakably bitter that one would feel uncomfortable just by smelling it. Luo Tan's expression did not change as she drank it down, and one had to praise what an unyielding man. Luo Tan said, "I want to rest and trouble Dr. Gao to leave early. Bai Lu and Shuangjiang should also leave. I cannot sleep with others in the room. It is so noisy." Gao Yang went out with the two maids with a smile on his face. After everyone left, Luo Tan stood up and ran to the window to look out. Bai Lu and Shuangjiang were sweeping the courtyard at the other end. She quickly took out her outer clothes and cloak from the room and put them on in a few moments. After thinking about it, she took the few bottles of medicine on the table and put them in her sleeves before moving a stool out of the room and placed it in front of the window and started to climb out. Regarding the matter of sneaking out of the residence to play, Luo Tan and Luo Qian, the siblings, had mastered it to perfection when they were in the Shao Chun city. At the end, even if Luo Li and Tai locked both of them in the room, Luo Tan and Luo Qian would still sneak out and do whatever they needed to do. So Luo Tan really did not put it in her heart when she was locked in the Shen mansion. The most urgent matter was to quickly go to the residence of Prince Rue to find Prince Rue. Luo Tan believed Shen Miao's words without a doubt and felt that as long as she could find Prince Rue, she would definitely be able to save Shen Miao. It was just that the wound on her waist had not healed and a slight movement would cause pain. Luo Tan could not care about it at this moment as she pressed on the wound and successfully climbed out of the window. At the other end, she familiarly found the corner of the courtyard and pushed aside the weeds by the wall to reveal a dog's hole before entering it without any burden. Luo Tan did all of this with ease and did not see the white figure standing far away, looking at her actions dumbfoundedly. Gao Yang simply could not believe his own eyes. Even if the Luo family was a military family, even if the Shao Chun city's people were valiant, even if Luo Tan was an official's young lady, it would be hard for her to think of jumping out of the window and going through the dog's hole. Gao Yang thought that in Ming Qi, Shen Miao was already considered a weirdo, but he did not expect that Shen Miao's Biao older sister would not be outdone. Indeed, it was a family that would not enter the same door. He shook his head but still followed. Luo Tan was going crazy. When she went out, she was afraid of alerting others, so she could not bring the Shen Mansion's carriage, and after coming out, it was not good to find another carriage, so she could only walk over by herself. Even though the distance between the residence of Prince Rue and the Shen Mansion was not far, but for someone like her who had just climbed back from the line of life and death, it was too far. However, Luo Tan did not give up. The willpower of the descendants of the Luo family was always a joke. Even the usually cheerful Luo Qian, when it came to serious moments, he could still hold on for a while. Since young, Luo Sui had taught the younger generation to never give up. Therefore, although Luo Tan felt dizzy and walked with difficulty, she never thought of giving up halfway. Gao Yang watched from afar. He was originally waving his folding fan as if he was watching a show, but in the end, he could no longer wave his fan. The girl's entire body was wrapped in a cloak. Others couldn't see her clearly, but he could see her clearly. Luo Tan couldn't stop trembling. Every 2 steps, she had to stop and rest for a while. No one knew the severity of Luo Tan's injuries other than Gao Yang. Just now in the Shen Mansion, even though there was a deliberate intention to tease, but what Gao Yang said was not wrong. Luo Tan's injuries were very easy to split open, and if the injuries were to be pulled, it would definitely be very painful. He could almost guess the beads of sweat that kept appearing on Luo Tan's forehead. But what was surprising was that even if it was like this, Luo Tan did not stop. Every time Gao Yang thought that Luo Tan would stop for a long time because she was not prepared to move forward, Luo Tan would continue. This made Gao Yang very curious as he wanted to see what Luo Tan was trying to do by not caring about her own safety and crawling out. Chapter 569. This short journey seemed especially long and Luo Tan missed the time when she was able to jump around. When the 3 words residence of Prince Rue entered her eyes, her legs softened and she almost knelt down. In the end, she did not kneel down because there was a pair of hands behind her that helped her up. Luo Tan turned her head and saw that Physician Gao with his white robes and paper fan was helping her to stand up. "You followed me?" Luo Tan shook off his hand and said angrily. "Oh." Gao Yang readily admitted and asked, "You suffered untold hardships just to come to the residence of Prince Rue? Why are you looking for Prince Rue?" Gao Yang had more or less guessed Luo Tan's intention. He had never heard Xie Jingxing talk about Luo Tan before, so the only connection between Xie Jingxing and Luo Tan was Shen Miao. Luo Tan came to look for Xie Jingxing for Shen Miao, and most likely it was because of Shen Miao's whereabouts. Luo Tan looked at Gao Yang in front of her vigilantly, and her heart was very anxious. She did not think that she would meet Gao Yang at this time, and was half frustrated and half angry. This person looked like a decent person, but would actually do such a shady thing like following others. She was angry that her body was weak, otherwise how could she not discover that someone was following behind her? However, Luo Tan did not think that with Gao Yang's ability, even if her body was completely healed, she would not be able to discover Gao Yang's traces. Luo Tan calculated in her heart that the relationship between Shen Miao and Prince Rue must not be known by others. Moreover, this person came from the palace. What if he went back and reported it to Emperor Wen Hui and caused trouble? One had to say that even though Luo Tan was usually careless, she thought long-term about some matters. Do you know Prince Rue? Gao Yang asked her. How could I know Prince Rue? Luo Tan retorted resolutely. His Highness Prince Rue is noble and I am just an ordinary official's daughter. How could I know him? Then why did you come to look for him? Gao Yang did not let it go. Luo Tan stuttered. Because... Her eyes glanced at Gao Yang's face, and suddenly an idea came to her mind, and she said loudly, I heard the rumors in the capital that His Highness Prince Rue is a peerlessly beautiful male, so I wanted to see his beautiful face. She did not study well, and her idioms were messed up, and she even said the words peerlessly beautiful face. When Gao Yang heard this, he burst out laughing. What are you laughing at? Just to catch a glimpse of a beautiful face, you disregarded your health and dragged your sick body to come here. Just to catch a glimpse of a beautiful face? Gao Yang asked. Luo Tan retorted, what do you know? It's hard to find a good-looking person in this world. Even if there is one, a single glance is precious. Gao Yang shook his head. I'm also very good-looking. Why don't you look at me? Why did you have to come here? Luo Tan said, Dr. Gao, it is important to know oneself. She said, I will not talk to you anymore. I need to go and see His Highness Prince Rue. As she spoke, she went up the steps and arrived at the entrance of the residence of Prince Rue before innocently saying, Trouble both of you to inform that I have an important matter to see His Highness Prince Rue. Gao Yang followed closely behind and gave the two guards a look. The guards naturally recognized Gao Yang, so they didn't say anything and opened the door. One of them said, I'll bring the two of you inside to wait. Luo Tan looked at Gao Yang. What are you doing here? Gao Yang said, I also want to see your beautiful face. If young lady does not allow me to enter, then this one can only return to the Shen mansion. If Shen foreign and General Shen return and ask, Wait, Luo Tan interrupted his words and glared at him hatefully. Follow me in. The two guards looked at each other in dismay and were somewhat unable to make heads or tails of the situation in front of them. Originally, they thought that Gentleman Gao brought a young lady to the residence of Prince Rue. Looking at it now, it seemed that young lady came to the residence of Prince Rue and brought Gentleman Gao. Chapter 570. Gao Yang and Luo Tan waited for a moment in the main hall, and after half an incense stick of time, His Highness Prince Rue, who was wearing a mask, appeared. Luo Tan's heart was anxious. If it was in the past, this was the first time she had such close contact with Prince Rue. She would definitely open her eyes wide to see what kind of person Prince Rue was. However, the current situation did not wait for anyone. Every moment they waited, Shen Miao would be in more danger. She took a look at Gao Yang, who was still drinking tea, and said to Prince Rue, May your Highness Prince Rue step aside for a moment to speak. As Luo Tan waited nervously, Prince Rue nodded his head slightly. Luo Tan was secretly delighted in her heart, thinking that this Prince Rue was not as unapproachable as the rumors. After entering the isolated world, Luo Tan knelt down without a second word and said, Pleading your Highness Prince Rue to save my youngest Biao sister. She repeated what Shen Miao had taught her and finally said, Since youngest Biao sister believes in His Highness Prince Rue, this official's daughter also believed that His Highness Prince Rue will definitely be able to save youngest Biao sister. Even though this official's daughter was unable to take out anything at the moment, if youngest Biao sister was found, the Shen family would definitely reward Prince Rue. I beg your Highness Prince Rue to save me. She kowtowed to the ground. Although Luo Tan also had pride in her bones, it was different from other people who would rather die than kneel to outsiders. Luo Tan was an honest person, and from her point of view, Prince Rue was after all part of the imperial family of the Great Liang, and it would not be a loss to kowtow. If one were to say some nice words to make him happy and save Shen Miao, then what was there to mind doing all these? She kowtowed happily, but she didn't notice that her actions seemed to have startled the man. I understand, Prince Rue said. Luo Tan felt a little strange, but she couldn't tell what it was. She subconsciously said, Does your Highness Prince Rue agree to rescue this official's daughter's youngest Biao sister? Prince Rue lightly nodded his head. Many thanks, Your Highness Prince Rue. Luo Tin kowtowed to him joyfully and was about to stand up, who knew that as soon as he stood up, his vision would go black and he would suddenly fall down. He had actually fainted. Prince Rue jumped in shock and subconsciously reached out to scoop as he called out, "Someone come!" Gao Yang. Gao Yang came in from outside and was shocked at first. He quickly stepped forward and grabbed Luo Tan's arm to check her pulse. After a while, he put down his hand and sighed. "Her body is too weak. Make a bowl of ginseng soup for her, and when she wakes up, I will send her back to the Shin mansion." Two maids came in from outside and carried the fainted Luo Tan to the bed. When Gao Yang and Prince Rue walked out of the room, Prince Rue snorted and suddenly lifted the silver mask on his face. "I am suffocated to death. Why do you want me to pretend to be third older brother?" This person was not Xie Jingxing, but Ji Yushu. One do not know when he will return, and one cannot let Luo Tan stay in the residence of Prince Rue until the sky turns dark. At that time when the Shin family comes knocking on the door, it would be hard to explain. Anyway, Third Xie has already gone to inquire about Shin Miao's whereabouts, so you just need to pretend to deal with it and let her leave earlier. Gao Yang said. Ji Yushu waved his hands. "I cannot take it if it happens a few more times. This is the first time in my life that someone knelt down and kowtowed to me. I am not a bodhisattva, so would this shorten my lifespan? This girl really is a bit too fierce. When she knelt just now, my heart almost jumped out of my chest. Fortunately, I didn't make any mistakes. Otherwise, if third brother knew that I ruined his appearance, he would definitely beat me up." Gao Yang said, "Fortunately, she is stupid. You are saying that I did not pretend to look like it?" Ji Yushu said angrily, "I pretended that the person kowtowed to me. How is it not like it?" Gao Yang waved his hands. "I am too lazy to talk to you. But why did she call you Physician Gao?" Ji Yushu said suspiciously, "You are no longer in the palace and have changed to a physician?" Gao Yang. Chapter 571. When Luo Tan woke up, it was already evening. When she woke up, Gao Yang happened to come over to give her medicine. Luo Tan did not stand on ceremony as she took the medicine and gulped it down with a gudong-gudong sound. Gao Yang's mouth twitched at the sight of this heroine, who was not inferior to any man. After drinking the medicine, Luo Tan wiped her mouth and looked at the gradually darkening sky outside the window. "I have to return. Where is His Highness Prince Rue? I will go and thank him." Gao Yang looked at her sideways. "No need. Prince Rue had already left. If you want to thank him, it might be after tomorrow." Luo Tan was stunned at first, but then she was overjoyed. Thinking that Prince Rue had left so quickly, he must have gone to save Shen Miao. He had just told him about the matter, and he took action so quickly. It seemed that Prince Rue was also a kind-hearted person. Thinking about it, Luo Tan's impression of Prince Rue in her heart went up a level. Gao Yang looked at the suddenly happy Luo Tan and said, "Since that's the case, let's pack up and leave." "All right." Luo Tan happily got up from the bed and put on her shoes. She suddenly thought of something and asked, "Are you coming back with me?" "Naturally," Gao Yang said. "If not for General and Madam strongly urging me to stay, this one wouldn't want to either. There are still many noble ladies in the palace waiting for me to treat them." Gao Yang emphasized. Luo Tan looked at him with some sympathy. "Dr. Gao has been working too hard all day. If that's the case, you should hurry back to the palace. It won't be good if your work is delayed and your money is deducted." Gao Yang. Why did Luo Tan always say that being an imperial physician was a job that everyone could do? And he didn't even have any status? Gao Yang was puzzled. He gritted his teeth and said, "There is no need. I have already asked for leave from the Imperial Academy of Medicine." Luo Tan made a sound of eh. She turned her head and rolled her eyes, hiding the disdain in her eyes. As a man, he was quite handsome, but when he had nothing better to do, he went to follow a maiden and even lustfully wanted to see Prince Ding's beautiful face. No matter how good his medical skills were, he had no medical ethics. Shameless. Sick in the head. No matter what, at the end Gao Yang still followed Luo Tan back to the Shin mansion. On the way back, out of fear that Luo Tan's wound would worsen, Gao Yang found a horse carriage. Returning to the Shun residence, Shin Xian and entourage had all returned. Seeing the two of them return, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Shin Xiu asked, Gao younger sister, Imperial Physician Gao, where are you all going? Everyone thought that Luo Tan was kidnapped again, and Shin Xiu even suspected that Gao Yang was a spy from somewhere and that it was Gao Yang who kidnapped Luo Tan. Yes, Tanner, you haven't recovered yet. Where did you go? Luo Tan's expression stiffened. The matter of Shun Miao and Prince Rue could not be said no matter what, so one had to find an excuse to muddle through. She stammered, I was the one who brought her out. Gao Yang cupped his hands in obeisance and said, Miss Luo's body has not recovered yet, but being cooped up in the house all day, her mood is gloomy and it is not beneficial for her recovery. I will take her out for a walk. It will help Miss Luo's wounds recover faster. Hearing that, Luo Shuiyan's suspicions then disappeared, but there was still some complaint in her words, as she said to Gao Yang, Imperial Physician Gao has good intentions, but if it were to happen again, it is better to inform the servants. Tanner did not bring a single maid with her, and we thought that something happened to her. Gao Yang blushed and said, It is this one who did not consider it thoroughly and apologized to Foreign. Never mind, never mind. Luo Shuiyan waved her hands. Luo Tan's heart was relieved. Even though her gaze towards Gao Yang was not warm, it was better than before. Gao Yang took the blame for her and Luo Tan's heart was grateful. The Luo family paid particular attention to gratitude and Luo Tan thought that she would give Gao Yang more consultation fees and not haggle over the previous matter. But why do I not see older brother Ling? Luo Tan stretched her neck and looked around. Shin Xian, Luo Shuiyan and Shin Xiu were all here, but Luo Ling was missing. You are not together? Shin Xian asked with a frown. Luo Tan shook her head. Then that is strange. Luo Shuiyan also said, Today before going out, I let Ling look after you and did not see any of you after returning, so one thought that you all went out together. Only you and Imperial Physician Gao? Luo Tan nodded her head. Did younger Biao brother go out to buy things? Shin Xiu asked. Even if he went out to look for someone, it is already late, so he should be back. In order to exchange information, the Shin family would return to the Shin mansion in the evening to narrate the results of today's search. Even if Luo Ling himself went out to look for someone, he should be back by now. Could it be that he found her? Luo Tan's heart moved. Could it be that older brother Ling had found youngest Biao's sister, so he came back late? Shin Xiu and Luo Shuiyan were surprised for a moment before a look of joy appeared on their faces. It would be good if it was like this, but just at this moment, a flustered voice was heard from outside. Not good. Not good. Everyone looked over, and the person who came was Luo Ling's subordinate. He was covered in blood as he said, Not good. Something has happened to young Master Ling. Chapter 572. Not good. Something has happened to young Master Ling. Everyone hurriedly walked out and saw someone supporting Luo Ling in. Luo Ling's right hand was full of fresh blood, and it was a ghastly sight. Older brother Ling. Luo Tan jumped in shock and saw that Luo Ling was being supported by someone. Even though he tried his best to endure the pain, his face was very pale and big drops of sweat rolled down from his forehead. Imperial Physician Gao. Luo Shuiyan quickly said, Trouble you to take a look at Luo Ling. Gao Yang had a helpless expression on his face. He originally thought that Luo Tan would be able to jump around now, and his task would be completed. One did not think that there would be another difficult to treat one. Could it be that they really treated him as a sitting physician? Even though he thought so in his heart, he did not show it on his face. Gao Yang said, Help him into the room. I will take a look at him. When Luo Ling and Gao Yang entered the bedroom, Shin Xian angrily said to the subordinate who helped Luo Ling back, What exactly happened? How did Ling get such a serious injury without rhyme or reason? That subordinate was almost about to cry. A group of us received a tip-off that someone seemed to have seen young Lady Shun's whereabouts. Young Master Ling brought us along to look for her, and later someone sent a note, asking young Master Ling to go alone. Who knew that it was a trap? Those people seemed to be planning to scheme against young Master Chiu, but did not expect that it was young Master Ling who came. Young Master Ling fought with them, and those people launched a sneak attack and injured young Master Ling's right hand. That subordinate paused and revealed a worried expression. Young Master Ling had injured his right hand once when he was training his troops in the early years, and it was considered to have healed. But today the knife wound was on top of the old injury, and young Master Ling immediately did not feel well. Afterwards, when our people rushed over, young Master Ling was like this. Luo Shuiyin and Shen Xian did not know that Luo Ling's right hand was injured before, and when they heard it, they looked at Luo Tan and asked, Ling was injured before? Luo Tan nodded her head. When one was young, one went hunting with eldest bow and was chased by wild beasts in the mountains and fell down the mountain. Coincidentally, his hand was scratched by a sharp stone. The injury was very serious, and at that time all the doctors said that older brother Ling's hand would not be able to be saved. One did not think that older brother Ling was able to pull through. Everyone was aware of the seriousness of the matter. If Luo Ling had suffered such a serious injury in the past, now that he was injured, one feared that it would be even worse. Shinshio said, Just who is scheming behind the scenes? Did you all see clearly who the other party is? The subordinate shook his head and said, Those people's martial arts are very good, and they don't look like normal villains. Their martial arts are above young Master Ling's. There's something fishy about this, Shen Xian said in a deep voice. First it was Jiao Jiao, then it was Chioer. It is obviously targeted at our entire Shen family. Damn it, if I don't find this person and skin him alive, my surname isn't Shun. Luo Tan said, The most important thing now is to take a look at Brother Ling's injuries. Luo Tan was a little anxious. His injuries are so serious. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became tense. After the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, Gao Yang came out of his bedroom and closed the door. Everyone looked at him eagerly. Luo Tan couldn't wait to go forward and ask, Dr. Gao, how is Brother Ling? Gao Yang said, I've already applied medicine for him. It's a deep knife wound, and there's poison on it. Although it's not a fatal poison, and I've helped him detoxify it, but what? Shinshio asked. But young Master Luo's hand was injured in the early years, and this time it is a chronic illness. The injury is not light, and in the future when he recovers, one feared that he would not be able to use his right hand to lift heavy things. Luo Tan took 2 steps back and suddenly looked at Gao Yang. Unable to lift heavy things? What about weapons? Gao Yang shook his head. Chapter 573. Luo Shuiyin accidentally broke the cup, and Shen Xian and Shinshio sucked in a mouthful of cold air at the same time. Luo Ling was a child of a military family, and this time Luo Sui let him follow Shen Xian back to the capital. It was to let him train in the Ding capital so that in the future when they returned to the Shaochun city, it would be easier for him to take over the Luo family's army. Luo Ling also practiced martial arts since young, and now to let a person who practiced martial arts since young to not be able to use his right hand, it was almost like crippling the other party's martial arts. To Luo Ling, it was a big blow. Impossible. Impossible. Luo Tan went forward and grabbed Gao Yang's sleeves as she said anxiously, Previously when older brother Ling was injured, those physicians also said that older brother Ling could not use his right hand, but later on older brother Ling recovered. Aren't you the best physician? When you saved me, didn't those physicians also said that I could not be saved? If you can save me, then you can definitely save my older brother Ling's right hand, right? Luo Tan and Luo Ling's relationship was very good, and they grew up together so naturally she was unable to accept it. Gao Yang pulled back his sleeves and patiently said, Young Lady Luo, it is not that this one is not willing to save. It is because your older brother's injury is too serious. He said, to say something that would make young lady sad. This one say that one cannot treat, no one in this world can save. These words almost cut off everyone's last hope, and also meant that in the future Luo Ling could no longer use his right hand to hold a sword. How can it be? Luo Shuiyin almost fainted. How can I explain to eldest brother and eldest Saw? Does younger Biao brother already know about his own injury? Shinshio asked. Gao Yang nodded his head and said, compared to young Master Luo's injury, this one think that it is better to concern young Master Luo's emotions these few days. But for a person who suffered such a sudden change, it is inevitable that his heart would be hurt, especially young Master Luo who is proud and arrogant. This matter to him is no different from a disaster, and if one does not persuade him, one fear that it would attract unnecessary trouble and it would not be beneficial to the recovery of the injury. Finishing, Gao Yang picked up the medicine box at the side and said, "This one need to make a trip back to the palace and need to prepare a few medicinal herbs. Later one will come back to the residence to perform acupuncture on young Master Luo. One will not stay any longer and bid one farewell." These few days Gao Yang had been staying in the Shin mansion, and indeed, he had not returned to the Imperial Hospital for a long time. Luo Shuiyin nodded her head. "These days we have troubled Imperial Physician Gao. Chioer, go send Imperial Physician Gao off." "I'll go," Luo Tan said, then grabbed Gao Yang's sleeve and dragged him out of the mansion. Gao Yang glared at Luo Tan's slightly deformed sleeve. Luo Tan only stopped when they reached the entrance of the mansion. Luo Tan looked at him and hesitated for a moment before asking, "Dr. Gao, is my brotherling's right hand really hopeless?" Gao Yang said helplessly, "I never lie." Luo Tan's expression showed some despair, and after a moment she said, "Since that is the case, thank you for helping me to cover up the matter in Prince Rui's residence." "Cover up?" Gao Yang looked at her in surprise. "When did I say that I would cover up for you?" Luo Tan stared at him, dumbfounded. "Did you lie for me in front of little aunt and uncle? I'm just pushing the boat along with the current. I'll discuss this matter with Miss Luo in detail when I think of the conditions of the transaction in the future." Gao Yang did not care about Luo Tan's sudden change in expression as he looked outside and said, "TSK, it is too late. This one must leave first. See you another day, Miss Luo." He cupped his hands and left. After calling him Dr. Luo so many times, if Luo Tan did not suffer a bit, Gao Yang would definitely not agree. Just as he thought about it, he heard a sound of grinding teeth behind him. "Have a safe journey, Dr. Gao." Gao Yang almost stumbled and fell. When Gao Yang's figure could no longer be seen, Luo Tan then sighed and prepared to return to the residence with a heavy heart, but saw a horse carriage rushing over from the other side. This horse carriage looked a little too gorgeous. Now that the sky was somewhat dark, Luo Tan could not see clearly. She only saw that the horse carriage stopped at the entrance of the Shin mansion and two people walked out. Chapter 574. Luo Tan rubbed her eyes, and after making sure that she did not see wrongly, she suddenly exclaimed, "Biao youngest sister." Shin Miao was sent back by Princess Rong Xian's personal female official, Lu Shi, and upon reaching the door, she first heard Luo Tan's shout. Previously, when she heard Xie Jingxing say that Luo Tan's injuries were extremely serious, Shin Miao was very worried in her heart, but upon hearing her shout, she was relieved. Luo Tan's shout directly alarmed Shin Xian and entourage inside. Everyone rushed over and were somewhat in disbelief when they saw Shin Miao. Luo Shuiyin was stunned for 2 seconds before quickly stepping forward and hugging Shin Miao. Hot tears flowed down, "Jiao Jiao." As if he just reacted, Shin Xiu also quickly ran over and shouted excitedly, "Younger sister, you have finally returned." Shin Xian also wanted to go forward. Shin Miao swept a glance at the surroundings. Because it was already late in the evening, and because of Shin Xian's search, most of the commoners did not go out at night. Thus no one saw anyone coming over from the Shin mansion. Shin Miao said, "Let's return to the residence first before talking. In addition, do not make this matter known." Even though Shin Xian had some doubts, he also gave Shin Xiu a look. Shin Xiu quickly complied and went out to instruct the servants outside before the entourage entered the residence. When they reached the hall, Luo Tan asked, "Biao youngest sister, what is going on? And this person is..." She looked towards Lu Shi. Lu Shi bowed to everyone. After all, she was a female official by Princess Rong Xian's side. Her every move was in accordance with etiquette and did not look like an ordinary person. She said, "This servant is a female official by Her Princess Highness's side. The day before yesterday, Her Princess Highness's guards saved young Lady Shun from the hands of the evildoers. Her Princess Highness was afraid that young Lady Shun would not be able to explain clearly and let this servant send young Lady Shun off. Now that the person has been sent off, this servant should return." 2 years ago at the Lantern Festival, Shin Miao was saved by Princess Rong Xian once, and 2 years later, she was saved by Princess Rong Xian again. If it was said to be a coincidence, It would make one think too much. Shen Xian and Luo Shuiyan were somewhat puzzled and wanted to say something more when they saw Shen Miao standing up and smiling at Lu Shi. Many thanks to Shigugu for these few days matters. One hoped that Shigugu would help this official's daughter to thank her Princess Highness. Shen Miao will remember your Princess Highness's life-saving grace and dare not forget it. In the future, I will definitely pay a visit to express my gratitude. Lu Shi quickly moved sideways to avoid Shen Miao's greeting and smiled. One do not dare. Since young lady and her Princess Highness are old acquaintances, there is no need to stand on ceremony. This servant will return first. Young lady Shen, take good care of your body. Tomorrow, Her Highness Princess will explain to the capital governor. Shen Miao thanked again, and after sending off Lu Shi, everyone finally could not help it as Shen Qiu asked, "Younger sister, what exactly is going on?" Just now from the conversation between Shen Miao and Lu Shi, everyone could see that Shen Miao clearly already had her own idea. Shen Xian and Luo Shuiyan now understood Shen Miao's character the best. Shen Miao was a young lady with big ideas and most likely already had other plans. Shen Miao smiled. Nothing much. That day the person who kidnapped me actually implicated me in another matter and kidnapped the wrong person. Later, when they were about to send me out, they happened to meet the people from the princess's residence. The guards of the princess residence had seen me before, and they felt that something was wrong, so they saved me. Afterwards I explained the matter clearly to Princess Rong Xian, and her Princess Highness intended to help me clarify. She temporarily did not want to tell the matter to Shan Xian, because it involved Princess Ming'an. The Qin country and Ming Qi's current power was complicated, and if Shan Xian was not good, it would be hard for him to get away. She had painstakingly managed it, and it was not easy for the current Shen family to gradually move away from those messy whirlpools, so how could the same mistakes of the previous lifetime repeat? Most importantly, this excuse was something that she and Xie Jingxing had discussed before. Even though she did not know what Xie Jingxing would do at the end, but Shen Miao thought that with Xie Jingxing's means, Princess Ming'an and the Xie brothers would definitely suffer a big loss. Since it was like this, it would not be good for Shen Xian to intervene. Chapter 575. Shen Xian frowned. "Jiao Jiao, tell father honestly, does this matter have anything to do with Princess Ming'an?" Shen Miao's heart jumped. Shen Xian was not a fool. They had just returned to the Ding capital, and those people deliberately abducted Shen Miao because of personal grudges. And from the time the Shen family returned to the Ding capital till now, if one were to talk about who they offended, it would most likely be that arrogant and despotic princess of the Qin country. If it was the Qin country's people, it was not that they would not do such a daring move. Shen Miao said, "What is father thinking about? This is Ming Qi's territory, and even if Princess Ming'an wanted to deal with me, the crown prince of the Qin country is not a fool. How would he let her stir up trouble at this juncture?" Seeing that Shen Xian and Luo Shuiyan still did not believe, Shen Miao simply raised her arms and said in a sweet voice, "That day they threw me out of the horse carriage and my hands were in pain and my stomach was very hungry. Mother, I want to eat something." When Luo Shuiyan heard this, she could not care about anything else and immediately felt extremely distressed. She instructed the kitchen to prepare some snacks and at the same time let the maid support Shan Miao back to the courtyard to rest. Most likely Luo Shuiyan was distressed for Shen Miao, so she personally went to the kitchen to prepare some soup. Shen Xian frowned as he pulled Shan Qiu over to do something. Luo Tan and Shen Miao returned to the room together, and seeing Shen Miao sitting down on the couch, Luo Tan said, "Biao youngest sister, you were lying just now. Actually, it was that Duke Ming and who took the initiative to do this, right?" Shen Miao's heart jumped as she thought, when did Luo Tan become smart, and asked, "Why do you say so?" Luo Tan rubbed her arms and pretended to be unable to bear it. "Just now you acted coquettishly and really gave me a layer of goosebumps. You were clearly acting coquettishly, and with one look it was done perfunctorily to please Gu Fu and Gu Fu. It is because they dote on you that you diverted." Shen Miao laughed and sized up Luo Tan again. "I heard that you suffered a serious injury. Why did you get off the bed now and not recuperate?" Luo Tan waved her hands. "That Dr. Gao from the palace has brilliant medical skills and was able to revive the dead and regrow the bones. Speaking of which," she looked at Shen Miao with bright eyes. This afternoon, I just sought help from His Highness Prince Rue and begged him to save you. His Highness Prince Rue is indeed resourceful. This speed is unexpected, and I thought that I would have to wait for a few more days. So in fact that Lu Shigugu is also fake? Luotan sighed. This Prince Rue of the Great Liang is really thoughtful. Xin Miao. Xie Jingxing had already rescued Xin Miao before Luotan went to the residence of Prince Rue. So when Luotan went, one feared that Xin Miao was already in the princess residence. The pitiful Luotan really thought that Xie Jingxing had such a great ability. Xie Jingxing was not an immortal. How could he possibly save people in such a short time? Xin Miao secretly criticized in her heart, but did not correct Luotan's words. She thought of something and said, "But why haven't I seen Cousin Ling?" She asked, "Did Cousin Ling go out?" Luotan's happy expression instantly dimmed. When Xin Miao saw it, she was somewhat puzzled and asked, "Why do you have such an expression?" "Something happened to Cousin Ling." Luotan's voice was somewhat obscure. Gao Yang said that he would not be able to use his right hand in this lifetime. Go and take a look. In the residence of the Marquis of Linan, Xie Changwu was also very anxious. After returning from the banquet with Xie Ding, there was no trace of Xie Changchao. Not only was there no trace of Xie Changchao in the secret room, there was also no trace of Xin Miao. After looking carefully, there were no traces of fighting in the entire secret room, which made Xie Changwu feel even more puzzled. Even though it was because of Xin Xian that Shen Miao could not be sent out, but now the captives had indeed disappeared without a trace. Princess Ming'an sent someone over to ask when Shen Miao could be sent out. So Xie Changwu could only be perfunctory on the surface, but his heart was burning with anxiety. Chapter 576. However, no matter how he searched, even sending out people, even searching the places that Xie Changchao was most used to, Xie Changchao and Shen Miao seemed to have evaporated from the world. Not a single trace was left behind. He did not know why, but the longer time passed, the more uneasy Xie Changwu's heart became. He tried to inquire about the formidable great General Shun family's news, but there was no news of Shen Miao's whereabouts. This made Xie Changwu's heart slightly comforted, as at least it was not the people who came to save Shen Miao that took Xie Changwu away. But as time passed, even Xie Ding became suspicious and asked why Xie Changchao was not seen for a day. Xie Changwu could only say that Xie Changchao went out of the city to hunt with his friends, and when Madame Fang asked, she also said the same. Princess Ming'an had already sent people over to question, and if the Xie brothers did not take any action, then Shen Miao would be handed over to her to personally deal with. Xie Changwu had unspeakable bitterness in his heart, not to mention Shen Miao. Even Xie Changchao was nowhere to be seen. If Princess Ming'an knew about it, she would blame him for not doing things well, and not only would she not put in a good word for both of them in front of Fu Xiuyi, one fear that they would suffer more. It was really a dilemma. For the first time, Xie Changwu regretted accepting such a hot potato. In any case, Xie Changwu had to send people to continue searching for Xie Changchao's whereabouts. Speaking of it, it was also ironic. A few days ago when they kidnapped Xin Miao, the Xin family searched the entire city for Shen Miao, and now it was Xie Changwu who searched the entire city for Xie Changchao's whereabouts. Thus there was some retribution. Xie Changwu naturally did not know that the brother that he was searching for was now in Xie Jingxing's hands. Tai Yi followed behind the purple-robed youth and said, Xie Changchao's corpse is kept in the tower prison in an ice coffin. When will master use it? Leave it first, there is no rush. Xie Jingxing said, such a good thing, one cannot waste it. He slowly walked back to the residence and just entered the courtyard. He saw Jiu Shu wearing a purple robe and a silver mask on his face, chasing that white tiger called Jiao Jiao all over the house. As he chased, he said, little brat, do you not recognize who this prince is? Open your dog eyes wide and look carefully. Obediently come to this king. Tai Yi's face trembled nonstop. Sometimes one had to say that Jiu Shu was a talent. No matter where he was, he could still laugh and scold as if he was an idiot. This kind of thing of disguising as Xie Jingxing to tease a tiger, most likely only Jiu Shu who was so free. The white tiger was avoiding Jiu Shu's warm embrace, and when it suddenly saw Xie Jingxing and Tai Yi coming over, it turned around halfway and suddenly rushed towards Xie Jingxing and bit on the corner of Xie Jingxing's robe as it shook its head happily. Xie Jingxing bent over to carry the white tiger and looked at the remaining Xie Jingxing in the courtyard. He said with a smile that was not a smile, "Did you have fun while I was not around?" "Xie xie 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 he he xie." The fake Xie Jingxing took off his mask and revealed Ji Yushu's sweaty face. Ji Yushu panted as he waved his hands. "Third older brother, it is not that I deliberately want to impersonate you. Today a young lady came to look for you for help, and Gao Yang wanted me to disguise as you. But I guarantee that my disguise was quite good. When that young lady saw me, she knelt down without a second word and even kowtowed to me." Ji Yushu felt wronged and worried. One do not know if one's life would be shortened. "Young lady?" Xie Jingxing raised his brows and looked at Tai Yi. Tai Yi quickly said, "In the afternoon, Luo family's Biao young lady and gentleman Gao came over. At that time, young Master Ji pretended to be you and agreed to Luo family's Biao young lady's request. Afterwards, both of them left." Ji Yushu emphasized, "It was Gao Yang who wanted me to do it." Just as he was speaking, he heard Tai Yi say, "Gentleman Gao is here." Chapter 577. One saw a white-clad person walking in from outside. If it was not Gao Yang, who else could it be? But one did not know if it was their misconception. Gao Yang's white clothes did not look as clean and new as before, and his face was somewhat haggard. In the afternoon, Ji Yushu was so busy being frightened by Luo Tan's kowtows that he did not look at Gao Yang's appearance carefully. Now that he saw it, he said in surprise, "Gao Yang, why do you look like you have aged by 10 years? Originally, when Gao Yang and Xie Jingxing stood together, even though he wasn't as handsome as Xie Jingxing, he was still considered an elegant young master. But now that he was standing beside Xie Jingxing, he had a somewhat dejected appearance. "Do not mention it," Gao Yang said. "These few days I have been in the Shen mansion helping to treat that young lady of the Luo family. Do you really think that I am a doctor?" As he said that, there was some indignation on his face. "I am not a doctor. I am an imperial physician. All treat others." Ji Yushu did not care about him and looked at Xie Jingxing. "Found fifth Shen young lady?" Xie Jingxing nodded his head. Ji Yushu gave a long sigh of relief. "Scared me to death. If such a good person like fifth Shen young lady were to be tricked by others, one fear that I would not be able to sleep well." Xie Jingxing looked at him coldly. "Oh? You are very familiar with Shenmiao?" Ji Yushu instinctively sensed danger and shook his head subconsciously. He only felt that Xie Jingxing's gaze had a deeper meaning and quickly said, "Third older brother, do you not have friendship with her?" "I am not worried about her. I am worried about you. Now that you have rescued her, my heart is very comforted. One think that fifth Shen young lady would be very grateful to you." "Lackey," Gao Yang said in disdain. "None of your business." Ji Yushu retorted sarcastically. Gao Yang took a deep breath and changed into a serious expression as he asked Xie Jingxing, "Was it Princess Mingan's hands?" In fact, in the Ding capital, other than Princess Mingan, there was really no one else who had the guts to take action against Shen Miao. If others wanted to touch Shen Miao, they would have to weigh the Shen family. Everyone knew that Shen Xian doted on his daughter to the point of being obedient. To touch Shen Miao, it was no doubt plucking the tiger's hair, and there would be endless troubles. Only a brainless female like Princess Mingan would not care about the consequences, but to be so daring, it really made one exclaim in admiration. Not only, Xie Jingxing said plainly, Xie Chongwu and Xie Chong Chao also participated. Are they crazy? Gao Yang could not hide his astonishment. Even if Princess Mingan promised benefits, how could Xie Chongwu and Xie Chong Chao be willing to risk their lives? When people do things, they would have a scale in their heart and the risk and return would be balanced. But Xie Chong Chao and Xie Chong Wu's move was not worth it, and Gao Yang was unable to understand. The two Xie brothers did not hesitate to become enemies with the Shen family in order to climb up, but they only cared about the present and did not think about the future. It's probably because he has lived a comfortable life for too long that he doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Xie Jingxing's smile was a little cold. An idiot who has been like this for 10 years. Gao Yang and Ji Yushu were silent. At this moment, they felt the chill that was emitted from Xie Jingxing's body. After silently mourning for the Xie brothers for a moment, Gao Yang opened his mouth, Actually, this time when Princess Ming'an took action, it was not only Shen Miao. Xie Jingxing turned around and frowned. What do you mean? They also had the intention to scheme against Shen Xiao. Today in the Shen Mansion, I heard that someone used Shen Miao's whereabouts to set a trap for Shen Xiao, and after Shen Xiao fell into the trap, they waited for an opportunity to take action against Shen Xiao. Those people's martial arts were very strong, and should be experts trained by the imperial court. After thinking about it, most likely it was Princess Ming'an's doing. Not only did they want to destroy Shen Miao, they also wanted to destroy Shen Xiao. Shen Miao and Shen Xiao were the younger generation of the Shen family, and as long as these two people were destroyed, it would be difficult for the Shen family to stand up again. Moreover, with Shen Miao and Shen Xiao's sibling relationship, if in the future Shen Miao returned and knew that Shen Xiao had fallen into such a predicament because of her, one feared that he would blame himself for a lifetime. There was no punishment more painful than living in pain. Princess Ming'an was indeed vicious and merciless. Xie Jingxing's countenance was slightly moved as he asked, "What was the result?" Shen Xiao was not fooled. Gao Yang said. Xie Jingxing's gaze then eased up, but before he could speak again, Gao Yang's words rang in his ears. But, even though Shen Xiao was not fooled, the Biao Yang master of the Luo family in the Shen Mansion was not very good. Those people thought that Shen Xiao was called out, but in fact it was Luoling. Luoling's martial arts were not as good as Shen Xiao's, and did not end up well in those people's hands. Xie Jingxing raised his brows. How is he now? Not very good. Gao Yang said, even with my medical skills, I am also helpless. In this lifetime, most likely he would not be able to use his right hand to hold a sword. Xie Jingxing was startled, and his good-looking brows gradually sank as his gaze turned cold. Chapter 578. On this day, the weather was warm. The sun was just right outside, and in the eastern courtyard of the Shen residence, Qin Roqiu was sitting and chatting with Shen Yu. These days, because Qin Roqiu let Shen Yu start to choose a son-in-law, Shen Yu had quarreled with Qin Roqiu several times. But the usually gentle Qin Roqiu showed extreme toughness for the first time. Shen Yu had no choice and could only follow Qin Roqiu to socialize with a cold face. Over time, there was a rift between mother and daughter. It was somewhat rare for them to sit together peacefully today. Heard that Shen Miao was kidnapped, and there is no news of her until now. Shen Yu picked up a fruit from the porcelain plate on the table and ate it while showing a gloating mood. One do not know if she is still alive or not. Qin Roqiu frowned. She had always wanted to train Shen Yu to not be affected by favor or humiliation, at least to look gentle and elegant in front of others. But compared to the younger Qin Roqiu, Shen Yu was lacking in calmness. It was still all right outside, but in the room, any emotions would be revealed, making Qin Roqiu worried. Who would kidnap her? Shen Yu muttered, "Eldest Bo has a lot of enemies in the Ding capital, and one do not know who was the one who took action this time. Since one dared to take such a risk, one must have a deep hatred with Shen Miao. One would not target other families and only kidnap Shen Miao meant that they were targeting Shen Miao." Qin Roqiu said, "Moreover, the Shen family's army had searched outside for so many days without any news of her whereabouts. The other party had hidden very well. This time Shen Miao is fraught with grim possibilities." Hearing that, Shen Yu first had some fear on her face, but she suddenly thought of something and smiled. "Speaking of which, I would rather she was alive." She did not continue speaking. After being kidnapped for so long, if she was alive, she would have suffered a lot of inhumane torture. The invisible rumors in the world were the most hurtful. If Shen Miao died, all troubles would end and one would not care about what happened before one's death. But if she was alive, who knew what ugly things would be said? How many young ladies in the Ding capital were kidnapped and rescued by bad people? Even though their lives were saved, at the end they could not stand the criticism from the crowd and perished. Moreover, Shen Miao was the daughter of the formidable great general. Qin Roqiu glanced at Shen Yu and sighed. No matter what, this is ultimately her matter. You haven't spoken to your father these days. How long are you going to be angry for? If one were to say that Shen Yu was busy with the matter of choosing a son-in-law, then Shen Yu had some resentment towards Qin Roqiu, then towards Shen Wan, Shen Yu had some resentment. From the mouths of the servants, one knew that it was Shen Wan who made Qin Roqiu hurriedly settle the marriage for Shen Yu. Thus Shin Yu pushed all the blame onto Shun Wan and wholeheartedly thought that Shun Wan wanted her to marry early for the sake of his career, so that the third household would have an additional in-laws. Thus for these few days, Shun Yu did not speak to Shin Wan. At this moment, when she heard Shinrochio say that, Shin Yu said impatiently, "Father is not seen all day. How can I talk to him?" Finishing, she turned her head away in a fit of pique and no longer cared about Shinrochio. Shinrochio was slightly startled and suddenly remembered that what Shin Yu said was not wrong. These days one did not know if it was because the official matters were too busy that Shinrochio and Shun Wan's meeting time was shorter. In the past, he would gently recite poems every 3 to 5 days, but these days Shun Wan was somewhat absent-minded. Shinrochio sighed in her heart. Old Shin Foreign was pressing Shun Wan to take in concubines, and if the husband and wife became estranged, then she would have to face the biggest crisis. Shinrochio did not know that at this moment Shin Wan, who was busy with official matters in her eyes, was playing chess with Song Zaiqing in the western courtyard of the Shun residence. Song Zaiqing was wearing a green pipa top and a light yellow palace satin plain snow silk skirt. Her hair was in a cool bun, making her look especially refined and gentle. The tea that she brewed was extremely tasty, and Shun Wan, who loved tea, would often come here to ask her for tea. When he came to ask for tea, Song Zaiqing would like to ask Shun Wan some questions about the chess game. As time went by, Shun Wan would often come here to play chess with Song Zaiqing and drink tea. Chapter 579. Song Zaiqing asked with a smile, "A few days ago one heard that 5th Shin young lady was abducted. One do not know if she was found or not. Currently there is no whereabouts." Shun Wan shook his head. Song Zaiqing then sighed. Such an accident happened to a perfectly good young lady. According to Third Master's view, was 5th Shun young lady harmed by General Shun's enemies? Shin Wan said, "This is not easy to say. After all, it was only 5th lady who was abducted. But after such a long time, one fear that even if the person was rescued, it would also be." Song Zaiqing's face revealed a mournful expression, but her heart was secretly delighted. She did not know why, but when facing Shin Miao, she would have an instinctive fear. Perhaps it was because the words that Shin Miao said to her last time made her hair stand. Or perhaps Shin Miao could see through her thoughts too clearly. No matter what, with such a person around, Song Zaiqing's heart would not be at ease. Now hearing Shin Wan say that, she was very happy. Regarding Shan Miao's matter, there were people in Kai Yun Yuan and the Shun residence discussing it. Wan Yinyang said, "I originally felt that it was not good for Dongling to stay in the residence all day, but now it seems that I am relieved. There are so many kidnappers on the streets, and you are so good-looking. If you were to be abducted, then Yinyang could only spend the rest of her life crying." As she spoke, she stopped the needlework in her hands and said, "One do not know if 5th young lady is dead or alive." Shin Dongling, who was helping Wan Yinyang with the embroidery stool, smiled when she heard that. "Yinyang, that is not something that kidnappers can do." Wan Yinyang's eyes widened. Why? How would there be kidnappers who would blatantly abduct people on the streets? Even if there is, one would not abduct a young lady of an official's family. Especially with one look, one can see that one has a great background. One cannot guarantee how much trouble it would bring to oneself in the future. Those people were obviously targeting 5th younger sister. I think that they are most likely the enemies of the first household, and it was just a coincidence that 5th younger sister encountered them. Even though Shin Dongling said it as such, there was not much sorrow on her face, as if she was talking about other people's family matters. Wan Yinyang sighed. 5th young lady's life is considered finished. She reincarnated into such a good family, but did not enjoy her life and wasted her luck. Not necessarily. Shun Dongling smiled sweetly. 5th younger sister has always had the help of a benefactor and can always turn misfortunes into blessings. Who knows if there will be a benefactor to save her from the water and fire this time? Even with the help of a benefactor, now that things have become like this, what else can be done? Wan Yinyang did not agree with Shun Dongling's words. Just as she was speaking, she saw Shin Dongling's personal maid Xing Hua hurriedly walking in from outside, as if she had something to say. "Yinyang, 3rd young lady, This servant just heard from outside that fifth young lady was sent back to the Shin mansion by Princess Rong Xian's carriage. She is safe and sound and very well. Inyang Si, Shin Dongling smiled. I already said, fifth younger sister's ability is very great. Naturally, there will be a benefactor helping her. There was finally news of Shun Miao, who was kidnapped by the bandits a few days later, and she was even personally sent back by Princess Rong Xian's personal female official. There was another layer of uproar in the Ding capital. It was because after Shun Miao was kidnapped by the bandits wanted to transport Shun Miao out of the city, but it was a pity that the Shun family's military was too strict. While the bandits were transporting Shin Miao escaped by herself and fell and fainted after injuring her leg, but accidentally bumped into the guards of the princess residence. The guards sent Shan Miao back to the princess residence, and Shun Miao then saw Princess Rong Xian after she woke up. There was no news these few days because Shin Miao had not woken up and the people in the princess residence did not know her identity. Thus, they did not dare to randomly identify her. In the end, Shin Miao was still a pure and good young lady, and this time there was no danger. Chapter 580. Perhaps there were some doubtful voices, but most of the people did not doubt this statement because the person who spoke was the most unreasonable, but also the most just Princess Rong Xian and Ming Qi. Since Princess Rong Xian had spoken, there should not be any problems. But what was strange was that even though the words had been spoken, it was all rumors outside and Shen Miao did not appear in front of everyone. Some people said that it was because Shun Miao was seriously injured that she was unable to appear now. Some people said that it was because the Shin family wanted to protect Shun Miao well and did not dare to let her leave the residence easily, in case she met with evil people again. In any case, Shun Miao had returned to the Shun residence, but no one saw it with their own eyes. And at this moment Shin Miao was standing in front of Luo Ling's room in the Shin mansion. Luo Tan's words echoed in her ears, "Biao youngest sister, go and persuade older brother Ling." Even though older brother Ling did not say it, we all know that his heart is very upset. Even though he still looks happy, he has unspeakable bitterness. We are all stupid and do not know how to comfort him. Biao youngest sister, you have read so many books and know what others are thinking in their heart. If you go and persuade older brother Ling should listen to you. Previously in the Shaochun city, whatever you say, older brother Ling would go along with it. This time it is the Luo family begging you. Shin Miao sighed in her heart and hesitated for a moment before finally knocking on the door. Who? Someone asked inside. It is me, older brother Ling. After a moment of silence, someone said, Come in. Shin Miao walked in with a bamboo basket in her hands. Upon entering the room, she placed the bamboo basket on the desk. There was a celadone bowl at the corner of the desk, and there were some brown marks at the bottom of the bowl, which was the medicine that Luo Ling drank just now. Luo Ling was sitting in front of the table, and there were some books on the table, so he should be reading. His face was slightly pale, and his hand was wrapped in bandages as he looked at her with a smile. Biao youngest sister has come. As the eldest grandson of the Luo family, Luo Ling was the most gentle and steady one among the four juniors. He seemed to be a real gentleman and was different from Pei Lang, who had a selfish and cold personality. Luo Ling was a person who could easily warm others. After Luo Ling knew that Shin Miao had returned safely, naturally he was happy for Shin Miao, but did not mention a word about his right hand being injured. Even when they were eating and talking, they were still generous and gentle, as if they had never experienced this. If he did not say it, no one would dare to mention it, but the calmer Luo Ling appeared, the more uneasy it made others feel. That was why Luo Tan came to beg Shin Miao, hoping that she could help to persuade Luo Ling. I brought you some cakes. Shin Miao smiled and took out the plate of pastries from the bamboo basket. I added milk and honey. Most likely it will be good for your injuries. She was the first person to directly say injury to Luo Ling. Luo Ling paused slightly before smiling. But I just drank the medicine and cannot eat it now. Younger Biao's sister, leave it here. After a while, I will taste younger Biao's sister's cooking. Can't eat? Shin Miao looked at him and asked, or can't eat? Luo Ling's action of holding the book trembled before he raised his head and smiled. What do you mean? You won't be angry because I didn't eat the cake immediately, will you? Shin Miao sat down opposite Luo Ling. Luo Ling made her think of a person, Wan Yu. Luo Ling's temperament was gentle and tolerant, and would not haggle over it after suffering a loss. This was almost the same as Wan Yu. In the beginning, perhaps it was because she knew that Shen Miao was not in Fu Xiuyi's favor, or perhaps it was because she understood the hardships of life in the palace. Even though Wan Yu was a princess of the imperial court, she did not have any arrogance at all. Afterwards, Mei Foreign instigated Fu Xiuyi to marry Wan Yu to the Xiongnu. Fu Xiuyi threatened with the righteousness of the world, and Shen Miao was in so much pain that she wished she was dead. Wan Yu in turn comforted her. The grasslands is very good. I have not been to the grasslands in my entire life. If one were to encounter something new, one would definitely write to Imperial Mother and let Imperial Mother see the beautiful scenery of the grasslands. Chapter 581. To never mention one's sufferings, and instead smile at those who care about one. This was Wan Yu, and this was also Luo Ling. Shen Miao said, "Is it so difficult to admit that one's heart is not happy and did not put it down, feel wronged, angry, and resentful?" Luo Ling was startled. Older brother Ling seems to not intend to blame anything. Shen Miao said, "Not planning to blame others means that one is planning to blame oneself?" Luo Ling stared at Shen Miao for a while and suddenly smiled bitterly. "Younger Biao sister, must you speak so directly? It is older Biao brother that is too roundabout." Shen Miao said, "Same as your feelings. You do not blame others, but blame yourself. Similarly, you do not say anything and do not mention anything. Do you want me to blame myself for a lifetime, or be unable to be at peace for the rest of my life?" Luo Ling was startled. "Younger Biao sister, older brother Ling, do you think that by acting as if nothing happened, everyone will feel relaxed and ignore the injury on your right hand and everything will be happy? No. If you hide it in your heart, you will not be happy and everyone will not be happy." Shen Miao's voice was very gentle, but the words that she said were very sharp. She said, "Life is only a short few decades and compromising is a way to live, but sometimes it is not bad to be a little presumptuous. Why is there a need to wrong yourself for others? If you are not happy, you can say it out. You can be angry, hate, or complain. This is not a big deal." Most likely it was the first time he heard such a saying that Luo Ling was somewhat unable to accept it. It was as if it was the first time he knew Shen Miao as he carefully sized her up. Towards this younger Biao sister, Luo Ling's feeling was that she had a clear distinction between love and hate. She was young but had a big bearing and looked gentle but stubborn. But these words made Luo Ling have a new understanding of Shen Miao. In her bones, there was a kind of disdain towards worldly etiquette. It was as if the so-called kindness and righteousness were not worth mentioning in her eyes. Who should I hate? Blame who? Angry at who? Luo Ling asked. You can blame me because it was because of me that you were tricked by others. You can hate the mastermind because it was those people who caused you to be injured. You can even be angry that none of the doctors in the entire Ding capital are able to treat your injury and are all quack doctors who deceive the world. The only one that you should not blame is yourself." Shen Miao said, "Good people blame themselves and bad people blame others, but bad people live more easily than good people. So, if you can make yourself happier, what's so sad about blaming others?" Luo Ling laughed and said, "Biao youngest sister, are you comforting me?" "Yeah." Shen Miao said, "I have said so much so that you do not bury everything in your heart." Luo Ling sighed. "Correct. After this matter, my heart is indeed unhappy and uncomfortable. However, aunt and uncle were already blaming themselves, so I couldn't add insult to injury. Tanner is worried about me. I can't let her worry all day long. I can only blame myself for not practicing martial arts hard enough. That's why I was injured. I blame myself for not being smart enough. That's why I was easily taken advantage of." "Then what about you now?" Shen Miao asked. "Biao youngest sister's skill in persuading others is different and just happens to suit my appetite." Luo Ling teased, "Perhaps what you said is right. It is not because of me, and the person that I should be angry at is not myself. Being angry and hateful is not what you should do." Shen Miao said, "Since the right hand cannot be used, then why not try the left hand?" Luo Ling was surprised for a moment. I heard that there was a general in the previous dynasty who was brave and good at fighting, but his right hand was chopped off by a local general on the battlefield. The world thought that he was depressed, but one did not think that he started to use his left hand and created the unique left-hand sword technique. Shen Miao smiled gently. What does older brother Ling think? Chapter 582. When Luo Ling heard Shen Miao's words, a strange brilliance gradually rose in his eyes. It was different from just now. It seemed that some thoughts in his heart had been aroused and his eyes became different. He looked at Shen Miao with an excited gaze. Biao younger sister's story is really good. Older Biao brother will do it better. Luo Ling laughed out loud and Luo Tan, who was eavesdropping outside, jumped in shock. It was different from the gentle smile that Luo Ling always had on his face. Even through the door, one could hear the carefree laughter. What exactly did Shen Miao say to Luo Ling? Is it because Biao younger sister relied on this kind of skill that no matter what kind of predicament she encountered, she could calmly face it and walk step by step until today's undefeatable position? Luo Ling asked. Shen Miao smiled. It is still too early to talk about undefeatable position. It seems so. Shen Miao declined to comment. What Luo Ling said was not wrong, but it was also not right. It was not possible to rely on these. If a person could feel that they had fallen from the most honorable position to dust, that everything they relied on had disappeared overnight, that they had not received any return for their efforts, that their family had collapsed, that their children had died, and that all of this was because of a stubborn mistake from the very beginning, then they would know that nothing was more important than living. Not only must they must live well. One day, they would be able to make a comeback, and one day, they would be able to pay back what they had suffered in the past on those who had hurt them. Luo Ling blamed himself, but how could Shen Miao not blame herself? She often blamed herself for her selfishness in the previous lifetime, which caused the entire Shun family's first household to be buried with her. In this lifetime, she was trying her best to mend this mistake, and it was fortunate that everything was not too late. She looked at Luo Ling and smiled. From today onwards, older brother Ling will not stay in the study to read all day. Ever since Luo Ling's right hand had an accident, Luo Ling would often stay in the study to read. It was said that it was to calm one's mind, but everyone knew that Luo Ling wanted to be alone and depressed. Biao younger sister had personally interceded, so how would I dare to read? Luo Ling smiled gently. Shen Miao nodded her head. Then I am assured. It is not enough to be assured. Luo Ling looked at her and blinked his eyes mischievously. Since this matter started because of Biao younger sister, then these pastries still need to be made. That is natural, Shen Miao replied. If Biao older brother wants to eat, just tell the maid and I will send it over. Luo Ling stared at Shen Miao. The young female in front of him was talking and smiling. She was originally delicate and pretty, and could even be said to be somewhat naive, but often gave one an extremely stable feeling. For example, today's speech, he clearly knew that she was here to persuade him, clearly knew that she was here to cheer him up. If it was someone else, Luo Ling could naturally seal his heart and face it with a smile, but facing Shen Miao, facing her outspoken and patient guidance, it was like the most gentle spring water. It was obvious that what she was doing was not a bright and good thing, but it made one feel that one would not resist, just like an elder. Luo Ling jumped in shock at his own thoughts and found it somewhat funny. Shen Miao was only 16 and was several years younger than himself. At such an age of 16, Luo Tan would even go out to climb trees with Luo Qian. For such a young female, no matter how mature she was usually, she would not have any relation with the elders. His gaze gradually softened as he looked at Shen Miao and teased. If in the future one cannot master the sword techniques with one's left hand, Biao younger sister must not despise me. When the words came out, Luo Ling felt that he was somewhat abrupt as the hint in those words was too strong. But he did not know why he looked at Shen Miao with some hope, as if he wanted to hear the answer that he was looking forward to from Shen Miao's mouth. Chapter 583. Shen Miao was slightly startled and faced with Luo Ling's gaze that was not the same as usual. She felt slightly embarrassed. Not to mention Luo Ling's identity or anything else, After her rebirth, Shun Miao did not have any thoughts about her marriage. If she could find a stable person to spend the rest of her life with, as long as that person respected her, so what if she loved or not? Thus Shin Miao had never thought about her husband. But Luo Ling. Shin Miao sighed in her heart. Since she had compared Luo Ling to Wan Yu, if Luo Ling really became her husband, then in the future she would die of awkwardness. She smiled and said lightly, "Older Biao brother is joking. Who in this family would dare to dislike you?" But she did not answer Luo Ling's question. The hope in Luo Ling's eyes gradually dimmed, and after a moment of silence, he smiled again. "No matter what, many thanks to younger Biao's sister for consoling." "You are welcome," Shin Miao said. "We are all one family." Shin Miao sat for a while before getting up to leave. After Shin Miao left, Luo Ling sat in front of the table, and one did not know what he was thinking about. After being in a daze for a long time, he then gently sighed and a bitter smile appeared on his lips. His gaze landed on the plate of pastries at the corner of the table, and after thinking about it, he reached out to take it. But one did not know what happened, but a gust of wind suddenly blew and just happened to hit that plate. The heavy porcelain plate actually fell to the ground with a bang, and the pieces flew everywhere. At the same time, the ink box on the table was also knocked over, and a lot of the ink splashed onto the pastries. It was obvious that it could not be eaten. Luo Ling was surprised for a moment and got up to take a look, but saw that the windows were tightly closed and could not help but mutter, "How can there be wind when it is closed so well?" Following that, his gaze landed on the pastries that were already contaminated by the ink and said regretfully, "What a pity." At the other end, Shin Miao returned to the room and lit up the oil lamp in the room. She then let Jingjia and Guyu withdraw before pressing down her nausea. Luo Ling's matter was indeed an accident, as one did not think that Princess Mingyan would be so ruthless that not only did she want to deal with her, she also wanted to deal with Shinqiu. This time, if Luo Ling did not block a calamity for Shinqiu, one did not know what kind of encounter Shinqiu would have. Princess Mingyan was even more arrogant than in the last lifetime, and because of a freak combination, she hated Shin Miao even more and did things without considering the consequences. This made one unable to feel at ease, and it was better to eliminate her earlier. Unfortunately, Xie Jingxing interfered in this matter. Shin Miao did not know what Xie Jingxing wanted to do, but on that day when she was sent to the princess residence by Xie Jingxing told her not to go out these days and not to let others see any traces of her. Even though one did not know how Xie Jingxing planned to take action, but now that Xie Changqiao was already dead, one think that Xie Jingxing still had to deal with Xie Changwu. Originally, Shin Miao had always thought that if she did not need to do it herself, it would be good to borrow a knife to kill others. But thinking that Xie Jingxing had never been a good person who would help others for free in that cunning mind, one feared that if he helped her get rid of Mingyan and Xie Changwu today, he would give a huge price to extort them the next day. So she felt that it was not a good idea to let Xie Jingxing take action. Just as he was thinking, he saw the candlelight flicker, and a silhouette suddenly appeared on the screen. Until now, Shin Miao did not even know how to be surprised and turned her head around habitually and indeed saw Xie Jingxing walking in from outside. Why did this person come uninvited and act so openly, as if he was strolling in his own garden? Shin Miao was somewhat stuffy, but saw Xie Jingxing sitting down in front of the small table. Today he did not wear the purple gold robes that he usually wore and wore a black brocade robe. If it was not for the silver-lined collar, he would have blended in with the knight. However, the knight was unable to hide his good looks. That pair of peach blossom eyes were shining brightly, and today it was especially sharp. "There is no tea and no snacks." Xie Jingxing raised his brows. "This is how you entertain guests?" Shin Miao said, "I did not seem to invite you." "Not a guest is at least an ally." "Not an ally." Xie Jingxing looked at her from the side, and his lips slowly hooked up. "That is also a life-saving benefactor." Shin Miao was at a loss for words. Xie Jingxing had already shamelessly claimed to be a life-saving benefactor, so what else could she say? Might as well not say it. Shin Miao looked at Xie Jingxing pouring the tea and drinking it in one gulp. She did not know why, but there was a somewhat unhappy look on her face. Shin Miao thought that Xie Jingxing did not show his emotions on his face. For example, the corners of his lips were slightly raised, but it made one feel scared. One did not know which daring person had provoked his unhappiness, You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.